Welcome to Viewpoints. My name is Ken Rubin, and today we're here with Jonna West, Special Projects Manager for the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, Georgia Homeland Security. And today we're going to be talking about Jonna's thesis entitled The Road Less Traveled, Exploring the Experiences and Successes of Women Leaders in Homeland Security. Welcome, Jonna.
Thanks, Ken. It's great to be here.
Let's start off by asking this first question. Why did you choose this topic?
Well, there are a couple reasons for that. First off, I knew when I started the program that I was interested in leadership. I was interested in doing a thesis about leadership in Homeland Security. I think Homeland Security is such an opportunity for leaders, that there are so many problems, wicked problems, as we call them, for leaders to address, and leadership is so important. But it was important to me to look at a different area of leadership and something that was kind of unique, maybe hasn't been addressed before in our classroom, and so I decided to look at women. And another thing was, just looking around the room, we had 30 people in our cohort and only 5 were women. And if you glance through the pictures and the graduating classes, that there's just a number of less women in the cohorts, and it just made me curious to look at the issue, and I just wanted to address whether or not women were succeeding in Homeland Security and what may contribute to their success.
Okay. How did you conduct your research in this topic?
Well, I used a combination of quantitative analysis and grounded theory. First off, I wanted to look at the demographics to find out if I was right, if there were less women in Homeland Security. So we looked at Bureau of Labor Statistics, the FBI Unified Crime Reports regarding women in leadership in Homeland Security and across the profession to address whether or not the numbers were lower, and they are. Fewer than 20% of Homeland Security professionals in the United States include women. So the numbers were much less. And then for grounded theory, I chose to interview leaders around the country, women that hold or did hold, some were retired in other professions at this point, but leadership positions, state, local, and federal in the Homeland Security world. I interviewed 14 of them. I conducted very in-depth interviews following 50 questions, carefully scripted, and the interviews lasted about an hour. Most of them were over the phone because the leaders were all over the country. And we spent time talking about their experiences and the information that they would like to share about the successes they have encountered in Homeland Security, some of the obstacles that they encountered, and what has helped them to be successful.
Okay, great. What were your major findings?
Well, there were a couple things, Ken. First off, as I mentioned on the demographics, there are fewer women in the Homeland Security profession. And when I say Homeland Security, as you know, it's very difficult to define. But if you're looking at the core Homeland Security functions, law enforcement, fire services, emergency management, those areas, there are much fewer women, lower percentages of women in that profession. And there are several reasons for that. One of the reasons is work-life balance. As you know, and as anyone knows, Homeland Security is a 24/7 profession, and you can't lay it down when you go home at night. And so work-life balance is a real consideration for people who enter the profession. And it's not prevented, but it's caused a lot of individuals to pause before entering it, including women. But men now as well have work-life balances. But the findings that I had regarding the women who have achieved leadership and who have chose to make Homeland Security a profession is that they've succeeded for several reasons. The biggest reason and the biggest issue that contributed to women's success in Homeland Security were the presence of mentors, mentors and role models. And the interesting thing about it is most of the women that I talked to, their mentors were men. It were male mentors that have helped them be successful as leaders in Homeland Security. Several of the women that I interviewed entered the profession back in the 70s when women were just entering the ranks of the fire services and law enforcement. And without the presence of strong mentors that had influence and really helped them overcome obstacles and barriers, mostly male, they would not have been able to achieve success. So I think one of the most interesting findings and one of the lessons learned that I took from this thesis and this research is that mentors are critical. Even today, mentors and role models are really important to help leaders achieve success.
Great. Taking that in mind, what advice would you give to a woman that was looking to Homeland Security as a profession?
I would tell her to get the experience. That was another finding, is that it's really important for not just women, but anybody entering the profession of Homeland Security, that you need the experience. you need the background, you need the education. This program, this master's program, was cited by several of the women that I talked to as being really important to gaining that educational experience, but also they thought it was very important that people work up from the ranks, that if they don't have that law enforcement background, if they don't have that fire service background, if they weren't out in the field working, that it may be a little bit more difficult. So I would encourage them to get some experience. If they don't want to go into the field in law enforcement and fire, get that education to make up for it. Get into a master's program, get into another program to really do it. And secondly, get mentors. Reach out to people, reach out to leaders that you look up to and admire. The 14 women that I talked to mentored me just by providing interviews. And I think it's really important that others reach out and try to help others. And that it's important for women, once they achieve success, to reach behind them and help others up.
Well, Jonna, that's outstanding advice. Thank you for sharing this with us today on Viewpoints, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you.